Pregame.com.
All right, we got a number 12 seed in a pick'em game against a number 5 seed. This is Brad Powers in the pregame.com studios just off the Vegas Strip. We're talking NCAA tournament action, Thursday day action. We got Middle Tennessee taking on Minnesota. And to my left here, we got the college basketball expert here at pregame, Dave Essler. Who do you like in this matchup?
Oh, I love Middle Tennessee. They are the underrated team in the tournament, in my opinion. They've got far more experience than anybody wants to even recognize, and they got their entire team back from a team that beat Michigan State last year in the tournament. So playing Minnesota is no big deal. Plus, you look at their out-of-conference schedule. You know, they beat Ole Miss, they beat Vanderbilt, held Vanderbilt to 48 points, almost beat VCU on the road. Playing Minnesota, a crippled Minnesota team, is nothing.
Yeah, no question. You talked about that experience, and a lot of the same players back from last year's team that had success. You talk Giddy Potts, Ja'Cory Williams, Reggie Upshaw. That's one thing I like in college basketball this time of year, experienced upperclassmen in the one-and-done era. And those top 3 players are all upperclassmen. They all average more than 15 points per game. So I like the experience factor here, and I like that they've kind of been here, done that as far as the NCAA tournament.
Oh, I do too, and it's also a play against Minnesota. You know, as we talked about earlier, it's against the Big Ten. You know, Minnesota comes in a 5 seed. They're seeded above Michigan, who won the conference tournament. You know, something doesn't make sense there. They're 1 seed below Purdue, who won the regular season. Something doesn't make sense there. Now they're minus Akeem Springs. They were fairly young to begin with. Now they lose Springs, who's a senior. They're even younger. They don't have any depth, and I think Middle Tennessee plays at a snail's pace. And I think with their upperclassmen and their experience, they're just going to make Minnesota walk. Minnesota's not going to be able to deal with that.
Yeah, and you talk Minnesota, you talk the injury to Akeem Springs. He was their 5th leading scorer, only averaged about 9 points per game, but you mentioned it, he was their captain, a senior player on a rather youthful team. So I downgraded Minnesota probably 1.5 points, 2 points. You mentioned that the market might think it's a bigger deal when you're on the ESPN show with RJ and Fez earlier today. But let's talk the Big Ten, because you mentioned you're playing against the Big Ten multiple times. It's I like it. It's a good wise guy handicap in the bowl season. When you think a conference is overrated, it's good to start lining up against that conference in multiple games. But I think in this instance, and you also mentioned this, number 5 seed for Minnesota, I mean, the Big Ten was very disrespected. 4 seed for Purdue, a 7 seed for Michigan, who won the tournament, an 8 seed for Wisconsin. I have all 3 of those teams in my power rankings above Minnesota, but yet Minnesota is a team here in the 5 seed.
Well, and it's a 5-12 pick'em. I mean, that kind of almost tells you all you need to know. I mean, the other, I didn't even look at what the other 5-12 lines are, but if it's a 5-12 pick'em,
no question. You could tell one team's vastly underrated, Middle Tennessee, one team, Minnesota.
Yeah, when the brackets came out, I mean, I was hoping before I saw the lines I might get a possession or two, but apparently I wasn't the only one that felt that way when they brought that line out.
All right, so a play against the Big Ten yet again for you, Dave, and experience for Middle Tennessee. Been there, done that. Your key handicaps, take Middle Tennessee. And remember, guys, here at pregame.com, we're going to always have more videos as far as the NCAA tournament, and we'll talk to you in the future.